Welcome into another edition of Mavs Latest. I'm Josyah Howard, and before we get started, please subscribe down below. Please leave any comments as I'm going along because this is every day, all things Dallas Mavericks, Mavs Latest with me, Josyah Howard. But I want to start here. If you caught yesterday's pod, and well, first, if you didn't, please go catch it. But if you didn't, or if you did, excuse me, Kevin Smith of Spot Track, he spoke with a Dallas Mavericks front office executive at Summer League in Las Vegas, and this executive made a bold prediction for his or her Dallas Mavericks. And they said, "We love AD and we feel we are in a good position to be a great team moving forward. With better health this year, we'll be at the top of the conference going into the playoffs. That is the goal." Obviously finishing in the 10 seed last year, or technically they lost the play-in game. I don't remember the exact seed they finish in, but they finish out of the play-in. And I don't think that was because the team was a bad team necessarily. It was because of the new team. Obviously, they're dealing with the trade with Luka Doncic and that blow over and that fallout. So last year, once you trade Luka, was already a wash. Now, top of the league or top of the conference? No, I don't see that for this team, especially with Kyrie not slated to not be back in time for them to have a good start early. I think they're going to have an up and down start. Kyrie is a big engine for this team. Puts up about 25 a game for this team. So you're gonna have to make up for that. Cooper Flagg helps some of that, but he shouldn't be relied upon to help most of it. I expect him to average somewhere between 16 and 19 points per game probably for the Mavericks. And if he gets closer to that 19-20, then they're really in business. But if he averages 16, 17, I don't think that's a failure for Cooper Flagg by any means. He's on a team with a bunch of veterans. He's not going to be scoring 25 to 30 points per game off rip. He's just not going to do that. He's not going to be asked to do that. He shouldn't be expected to do that. So, again, bold predictions. Obviously, this executive said this in anonymity, so didn't necessarily have to be so mm, hyperbolic necessarily with this take. I mean, what else is somebody going to say about their own team? But, you know, and at least this executive here, an Eastern Conference executive, told Smith that it pays to get lucky, right? Dallas got a generational talent. When those lottery balls bounce their way, the kid's unbelievable. After he played like crap in the first game out here, that he was going to be great the next time out. An absolute ass kicker. We wish we had that kind of luck. And that's an Eastern Conference GM that told Smith that about Coop. So, yes, you're never going to get credit for being lucky, but you can't also dwell on the fact that they got lucky. He's on the team, and you have to evaluate it as such. And again, top of the league, I think is a stretch, but they're a playoff team in the West, and that I think it's fair to give them that expectation. So Cooper Flagg plays into a lot of that, and Max Christie, he spoke upon the opportunity to begin to play with Cooper Flagg as a teammate, and he says Cooper is great. You guys are going to be very excited to watch him. You should be. He's young. He's 18. He's got that drive in him for sure. He's going to be good, and he told that to Mike Curtis on X. He also added he's going to be an all-star eventually in this league. Hopefully he continues to work the way he does. He's got all of that and got the mindset. He's going to be great for us. Again, veterans don't need to and Max Christie's on the younger side. He's been in the league for about 3-4 years now. But I love when teammates could talk up their own teammates. I feel like you don't get this a lot in other sports where a rookie comes in, he might be coming for somebody's spot, and they kind of treat him like crap. And I feel like it's been over and over again, everybody with just glowing reviews of not just Cooper Flagg, the basketball player, but Cooper Flagg, the guy. I feel like a lot of the greatness that comes around with Cooper Flagg is the intangibles, not just the tangibles. And he has plenty of tangibles. He's a great basketball player. But it's the intangibles that I keep hearing so much about. If it's not a coach, it's a player, or if it's an executive, it's I've heard nothing but good things for Cooper Flagg. I hope it translates to the season and hopefully a deep playoff run. But again, I like mentioning when teammates and coaches are talking about Cooper in this way because I just don't think rookies get that type of hype from their own teammates and their own coaching staff sometimes and players around the leagues too. I don't think number one overall picks necessarily get the love and the adulation that Cooper Flagg's getting from everybody. So again, I mean you see with somebody like a Caitlin Clark in WNBA, I mean that's a little different. But again, it's just good to see the positivity around Cooper Flagg, not just with the Mavericks, but around the league. So shout out to Max Christie for shouting out his new teammate and Cooper Flagg and his excitement to what he's going to add to the Dallas Mavericks. But I saw another LeBron trade idea, and I will say the trade idea, but before I do, I wanted to use this trade idea to more talk about of like when's the right time for the Mavericks to even make a trade for LeBron James if it were to make sense. And I'd say that's the trade deadline. If you're going to make a move for LeBron James, you have to see what the Mavericks are going to be without Kyrie for a little bit. See who might be a more tradable asset as they get more reps while Kyrie is recovering. Maybe someone like a PJ Washington has a career high year because he's getting a little bit more play. Daniel Gafford, somebody that just signed his deal, so he's locked in. Klay Thompson, we talked about his offseason for probably the last month or so. Um, and he's obviously doing great. You got to see how these guys mesh together, and I'd say trade deadline because that gives the Lakers a shot to see how they mesh. And if LeBron says, all right, things aren't really working out here, I already kind of put out there that I might be interested in leaving, let's just do this now. I just think the trade deadline makes the most sense, but Connor Toms of Bleacher Report presented a trade where it'd be LeBron for Klay Thompson, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, Jaden Hardy, and a first rounder. I mean, yeah, that's all great, but again, I couldn't make that deal with all those pieces without seeing if they click on my roster first together. LeBron's great, and I think he would boost this team to a different level, but again, you just don't know when the impact will be lost with LeBron in terms of, yeah, he can come out there and put up numbers, but how much is he going to impact winning? And that started to dwindle a little bit over the years with the Lakers, and I don't know if that's because of their roster construction or how things have gone there, but it's kind of true with LeBron James, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, he's 40 years old. What do you expect? Um, but the LeBron James of old would walk himself into a conference finals with whatever roster he has, and with a roster with Luka Doncic on it to get knocked out in the first round. That shows me something about the type of impact he now has on the game. Still great impact, but not quite the impact. And you're not expecting that. Again, he's 40. He's the greatest, oldest player of all time, and he will stay that until he retires because, again, we've never seen somebody still making all NBA teams at the type of level LeBron James at his age. So if there's a way to bring him in, I'm not against it. But a trade, again, I just feel a trade, if it's not at the deadline, and even at the deadline, there would have to be a lot of factors to play in. I just don't see how a trade for LeBron works for the Mavericks. I just think it's going to have to be some type of offseason. He's a clean free agent type of deal for that to realistically happen. But I do think the LeBron interest in the Mavericks is real because there's too many connections there for him to not be interested. They're pretty much the 2020 bubble team from the Lakers in terms of the coaching staff and AD, and then you have Kyrie from your Cleveland days. So there's just, and you've always wanted to play with Klay Thompson, but again, if you trade, then Klay Thompson's probably involved in that. So I don't know. I just don't see a trade realistically happening, but I just saw another trade rumor pop up, so I had to at least bring up like, all right, when would a LeBron James trade really happen if he were to at least really present the idea of getting traded? And again, I think that would be the trade deadline. But to wrap things up here on Mavs latest with some Mavs chatter, Darren Williams caught up with the New York Times and he brought up a time where he almost ended up with the Dallas Mavericks. So when he re signed with Brooklyn in 2012, he was planning on possibly going to the Mavericks, and he told the New York Times, a lot of questions that me and my agent had for the Mavericks really didn't get answered on the day that I chose to go back to the Nets. He said, I think if he, referring to Mark Cuban, was there, he would have been able to answer those questions a little better. When asked if Marks showed no influence, uh, if excuse me, if Sean Marks no show influenced his choice to return with the Mavericks, um, then he obviously said, or excuse me, let me read that again. When asked if Mark's no show influenced his choice to return to the Brooklyn Nets, Darren was blunt. Of course. Knowing the outspoken Mark Cuban, silence obviously not an answer. And a few days later, he responded and he said, I'm a big fan of D Will, but I'm kind of surprised that he would throw his front office under the bus like that by saying that I would make a difference. Uh, I would have expected him to say, I'd like to expect one of our guys to say, "Hey, I'm so thrilled with the front office and the moves we made in our team that I wouldn't have mattered what he did. He's a superstar point guard, but my goal is to build a team. I'm flattered that he thought my presence would have made more of a difference than what the Nets management did." Um, so it almost seems like it's obviously was a money thing too, and a fact of the matter that the Brooklyn Nets, honestly, at that time, they're a year out from making that Paul Pierce KG trade too, and when he decided to stay, it was kind of, he was rebranding the Brooklyn Nets, so I made that made sense. But if he went to the Mavericks the year after they won the championship, or it was not the summer they won the championship, but the summer after that. So 1 year removed from winning the championship. So that was the Miami's first championship year. Yeah, I mean Darren Williams on that team, he kind of started to drop off around 14. So I don't know how long they would have signed him for, but it almost sounds like the Mavericks kind of saved themselves from a declining Darren Williams. As great as he was a top five point guard in his peak. But it sounds like the Mavericks kind of saved themselves from possibly signing a bad contract. And obviously, they had to deal with the DeAndre Jordan saga around the same time where he was going to join the Mavs and then he ultimately decided to re sign with the Clippers. But this has been Mavs Latest. I'm Josyah Howard. Please subscribe down below. Please leave any comments you got for me. And let's get it, y'all.